How you guys doing, team? All right. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. We have Mindset for Success, Cultivating Growth and Resilience in Business, Part 2. But of course, you can always put in business, health, relationships. Okay, so it encompasses. Oh, we better turn off. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. All right. We are recording. So the mindset for success, cultivating a resilience in business, in life, in health. So we touched base on this. This is part 2. So we did talk about uh, mindset for business in our previous school material. But why not go through? All right, just a little recap here. So we have the corporate athlete. We could always put in the athlete, the fighter, right? So integrating leadership mindset, EQ, and physical vitality. So part 1, we have a fixed versus a growth mindset in business and health. So the core principle. So how a leader views adaptation determines both organizational innovation and physical longevity. So the fixed mindset leader, static performance, and versus the growth mindset leader, continuous optimization. So emotional intelligence, team culture, and bioregulatory health. So the core principle, emotional self-regulation is a physiological process. High EQ lowers systemic stress, protecting both personal health and team culture. So the ripple effect of energy. A leader's physical energy levels directly impact their emotional baseline. So fatigue reduces empathy, impairs cognitive processing, and increases the likelihood of workplace conflict. So again, so I mentioned this before, the ripple effect of energy. So how you show up for your day-to-day responsibilities will have a ripple effect upon your work, school, health, relationships. So it is beneficial to have emotional self-regulation as a physiological process. Okay, another one is fostering safety and retention. Leaders who prioritize their wellness have the nervous system capacity to remain calm and supportive. This creates a high Q environment where employees feel valued, driving up job satisfaction and lowering turnover. So, fostering safety and retention. So, leaders who prioritize their wellness have the nervous system capacity to remain calm and supportive. So this goes along lines. It doesn't have to necessarily be in business. It can be in life. So when we are prioritizing our wellness, our health, stress levels, our eating, our nutrition, our daily habits of becoming the best person that we can, to show up with authenticity, to show up in our true selves, where we can accurately express who we are in our workplace environment. We can fully express who we are into the world and to speak from the heart. We can have or cultivate those relationships directly impacted by our true self. So, collective problem solving. So, high IQ prevents the body's natural fight, or flight response during difficult team alignment meetings. Instead of a sympathetic nervous system takeover, defensiveness, ego clashing, high IQ keeps the leader in a parasympathetic state, encouraging constructive communication and mutual support. So this goes along even with our sports teams, to having that encouraging constructive communication and mutual support, where we write down, or not necessarily write down, but we make sure that we put down our responsibilities and our accountable actions to that inner circle, or to our meetings in sport and business, or relationships and friendships, relationships in our marriage perhaps, or our family, and to make sure that we have our responsibilities and that we are well aware and we are knowing what our responsibility is, to make sure that we progress in that environment, that we progress in that constructive communication with mutual support, to further enhance our community, to further enhance our workplace environment, to make sure that, okay, well, you know what? I was actually talking to a friend. I forgot about it. It was in regards to what was the term I said? It was something along the lines of not knowing my actions were limiting limiting the relationship. I was unaware of my actions or behavior in that setting. That's why I was performing those actions. Now, as a to take full responsibility for that unawareness of behavior, as a result from that person who received that unwanted action by me, brought that to me and addressed it. Now that I'm fully aware, that is not a beneficial action or beneficial behavior that I can take in that setting. So now for me to take responsibility and to have encouraging constructive feedback, to make sure, okay, well, you know what, I was unaware that my behavior was supporting or limiting this relationship. Now that I am aware of it, now I have to do what I can to make sure I cultivate our relationship, because I value who you are as a person, and I value our relationship to further, to continue on this journey of continue on this journey of learning and adapting, how I can respect your character, or how I can respect our working relationship. So it's having that open mindedness and understanding that, okay, my action led down this path in our relationship. You brought it to my attention that it is affecting you in a negative way. I have to look at that and take a look at what I can do to self correct, to make sure that we don't have this conflict in the future, because I value you and I value our relationships. So, having this high emotional intelligence and self awareness will cultivate our working relationships on a sports team, on a educational environment or workplace environment. So, managing emotions and physiology under high pressure. Managing emotions under intense pressure requires explicit physical and cognitive techniques to override the body's stress response. So, one is the tactical pause, autonomic, autonomic regulation, forcing a brief pause between a high stress stimulus and a response. Utilizing deep diaphragmatic box breathing shifts the body out of an acute stress state, dropping the heart rate and re engaging the analytical prefrontal cortex. So, having that pause when or if a situation arises in a high stress state, an event comes about, I want to make sure that I pause and take a step back. and see, to have that deep breathing, to making sure that I don't respond out of anger, that I don't respond in that stressful state. I want to take a break. I want to take a breather and disconnect for a second and realign my breathing and lower my heart rate, and to making sure that I connect with this person I'm dealing with or this stressful event wholeheartedly, and not out of anger, not out of irritation, and not out of perhaps even sadness, but to make sure that, okay, I look at this constructively and see what is happening in this situation by having a tactical pause so I can re-engage the analytical prefrontal cortex. Scientific stuff here. So individual resilience and capacity. Building physical resilience through structured fitness allows a professional to bounce back from high pressure corporate demands, rejections, and failures. High cardiovascular and metabolic health raises the threshold of what the body perceives as an insurmountable threat. High cardiovascular and metabolic health raises the threshold of what the body perceives as an insurmountable threat. So having the resiliency and building up that structure of fitness allows a professional to bounce back. So when I have working with kickboxing, working with the martial arts, working with the exercises to build resilience, so I can build my confidence in lieu, or sorry, not in lieu, but in tandem with my strength training. I also build mental strength capacity so I can deal with stressful events at work, or I can have that confidence to go through a rejection or to go through corporate high demands in my workplace environment. So my threshold of doing my running, of doing my yoga, to have that balance, to have that yin yang, of intensity, but also to have that ability to calm myself in a stressful situation by deep breathing, by looking at the big picture, by looking at this constructively and not out of anger, and to realize that I can overcome this situation and we can overcome the situation if we have an environment where we can safely sit down and talk and discuss the roadblocks or the parameters of what's needed to be overcome through communication, through what is your responsibility and what is my responsibility in this event. So having that, yes, mental fortitude, but also to have that physicality of fitness, of working out, of being strong, of having a good posture, of having deep core muscular system, because how I approach life outside of the gym is also a reflection upon my discipline and my passion towards fitness and my passion towards living a healthy lifestyle that will trickle into my workplace, either as a leadership, as an employee, as a teammate. So, proactive energy management, shifting focus from just managing time to managing energy. Outstanding leaders in high pressure sectors treat sleep, movement, and proper nutrition as non negotiable strategic investments required to stand out in a competitive market. Even though fight or fit, yes, fight or fit athletics, it is having the mindset, the philosophy, the discipline of a fighter without stepping into the ring. Yes, I've worked with full contact fighters in the past, but having proactive energy management, making sure that my sleep, movement, and nutrition are non-negotiable, because all of this plays into the vehicle of who I am and who I am as a leader, who I am as a personal trainer, coach, mentor, friend, teammate. So all of my actions outside of the office and gym walls will either progress me forward in our relationships, or it will take longer or not necessarily be the most beneficial. What's the word I'm looking for? How I or how we prioritize our health, sleep, stress management, and encompass a holistic viewpoint will further develop our relationships in the workplace or as a teammate. If I am just thinking of myself and how I can move along or benefit without thinking of the whole as a culture or as the team, then I am going to be, or I may be that weakest link, even though in my mind's eye, I might be doing the best I can to be the strongest, the fastest, the smartest, the 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 leader of who will win at all costs. That's the person we don't want to have. So, how I approach myself and what I learn and what I input into my brain, into my habits, into my workplace environment, that will dictate the outcome, beneficial or not, towards everyone else. And that's what my control is: my sleep, how I deal with stress, how I come into the workplace, and what I bring to the table as a leader, as a teammate, as a family member. So making sure that I look at everything and to either adapt or take away habits or take away actions and behaviors that will limit our growth. So the larger context, a growth mindset serves as the underlying engine for business strategy, career trajectory, and total wellness. Building emotional intelligence. In business, building emotional intelligence supports the self awareness and self regulation necessary to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics and resolve workplace conflicts effectively. Here's the guy I was saying here. So, having a my emotional intelligence will support the self awareness and self regulation necessary to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics and resolve workplace conflicts effectively. How does it tie into wellness integration? So nervous system regulation lowers chronic cortisol production, protecting metabolic health, heart rate variability, HRV, and deep sleep quality. So as I build my emotional intelligence for work, I am also tackling or not tackling, but improving upon my nervous system regulation. Cortisol is, having a high cortisol, and that's what we don't want to have. And of course, protecting your metabolic health and a heart rate variability, and of course, deep sleep quality. So fostering lifelong learning in business. Fostering lifelong learning drives the necessity for continuous education, allowing professionals to adapt to rapid market changes and technological advancements. So, having that mindset of always wanting to be a lifelong learner, you will never master a certain topic, will never master a certain, having a black belt, right? So it is a continuous lifelong learning process. And we'll just have to adapt with the times and to see what is working and what isn't working. As a personal trainer, when we first started, we used to always use, well, it was recommended to use the face the wall squat. Now, fast forward, if I kept that ideology or that mindset of face the wall squat is a great indicator of flexibility and how to perform the best squat. Fast forward to now, actually, that hip or the pelvic disrupt or the lower back displacement of facing the wall actually limits or heightens chances of lower back injury. So we don't use face the wall squat. If you're, of course, if your body can do that, yes. If we're doing an overhead squat, yes, we have to have context in this. But face the wall squat was a basic body weight assessment. Now it's not necessarily beneficial for a physicality or how to do a proper squat. So having that lifelong learning and making sure that we adapt to the times and that we look at what has worked in the past and what is working now for our clients, what is working now for our business. AI is a huge thing. All right. So lifelong learning for business. Now for wellness integration, engaging in both complex skill acquisition, such as martial arts, mechanics, or coordination training, and demanding cognitive tasks actively builds new neural pathways and slows brain aging. Okay, so this is a huge one here. So engaging in both complex skill acquisition and demanding cognitive tasks actively builds new neural pathways and slows brain aging. So as we learn a complex combination for kickboxing, our Fighter Fit X has my number system, 1 through 16. There is a little bit more if we add in sidekicks. But having that, building new neural pathways for a combination, building new neural pathways for learning complex tasks. For myself, recently is coding to working on the D1 and Assistant Coach app. And of course, learning more about the Fighter Fit X, the basal metabolic rate calculations. Also having the understanding of mechanics for a deadlift, and of course the muscle that's a part of it. So having the new neural pathways as we learn and adapt, and to making sure that we are a student of life will help slow, or it will our brain aging will slow down. Cultivating authentic networks. Knowing that success is a collaborative journey, a positive mindset helps professionals build authentic, supportive relationships that provide valuable resources and mutual growth. This isn't just for me to win at all costs. We can take a look at the current environment of where that mindset entails in businesses and see where they are standing. So cultivating authentic networks, knowing that success is a collaborative journey, a positive mindset helps professionals build authentic, supportive relationships that provide valuable resources and mutual growth. So how can we incorporate this with wellness? So community longevity, leveraging human connection and shared fitness wellness communities to reduce the isolated psychological strain of high level leadership. Leveraging human connection, not doing this journey alone, of trying to become the best version of yourself. We will hit roadblocks, and a person who is ahead, perhaps by 3 chapters ahead in their lifestyle or in their life, can help me out as they navigated successfully through that terrain. They can look back and help me as I scale or ascend this fitness leadership ladder. And cultivating supportive relationships that provide valuable resources. And of course, to help reduce the isolated psychological strain of high level leadership. Driving strategic resilience. So in business, a proactive mindset allows organizations to anticipate potential disruptions, implement contingency plans, and turn potential crises into opportunities for innovation. Turn potential crises into opportunities for innovation. going through the day one den assistant coach for the past, what, 390 days, 120 days, and looking at the app and how I can further enhance it to making sure that the user, you guys in the day one den, to really achieve lasting success is looking at the roadblocks, looking at the obstacles that were set within the app, and of course, using it myself, I have adapted that the brain behind it, the user ability, the the smartness and quickness of it. So without going through all of the years of working with other apps, trying to work with the previous companies or the previous fitness apps, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have the knowledge or the the experience of working with those apps to create my own, to create the Fighter Fit X version. So it is seeing the potential crisis, as in the what was limiting in their apps, and learning how I, with my experience, further enhance their app under our umbrella of Fighter Fit Athletics. So wellness integration. So maintaining a highly conditioned, resilient body that acts as a physical buffer against professional burnout, allowing you to turn corporate crises into opportunities for execution. So maintaining a highly conditioned. So if I wasn't as fit, or if I didn't have martial arts in my life, there are so many instances where I would have lost my edge. I would have lost my cool. I would have acted in violence. I would have had my old previous self, who I buried under 24 years of learning, adapting, cultivating strength, resilience, open mindedness, honor, self respect, self acceptance. If I didn't work with those skill sets to overcome who I once was, I would have lost everything. So it is having the highly conditioned, resilient body that acts as a physical buffer against professional burnout, any sort of crash out. If I didn't have the my fitness in line, or if I didn't have my fitness as a priority, I would have lost many, many opportunities. So the bottom line, integrating mindset, emotional intelligence, and physical wellness into daily business operations is the ultimate strategy for staying agile, innovative, and competitive. High performance leadership requires a high performance physical foundation. Ba-da-ba-ba. High performance leadership requires a high performance physical foundation. You gotta like that one. You gotta like that. So that was the corporate athlete, or the mindset for business success and health, part two. Hit post on that one. There I am. So yeah, so having the incorporating health and wellness, but also having that mindset, that growth mindset, it will open far more doors than it will close if I had a closed mindset. Okay, so that is quick little on mindset and health and wellness. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I wanted to keep that one short. It is now 12:30. And what else is going on in the back end here? I've been working on the day one den, working out with it, as you can see in the background here, working on it at home to make sure that the what I want to have is the day one den, to making sure that you can reach your goal without the gym, right? So Fighter for X, the day one den is the gym. It is the online gym, and been working with it and there were some certain work exercise flows that came about as a result of it, and I am digging it. I'm having fun. But yeah, so there we go, team. Have a great rest of your day. Mindset, part 2.